Hello guys, hello, my name is Plasma Waffles and today we're doing something different. I'm just gonna try and do a more casual approach to this, so I can get more videos out. So it's not gonna be as, well, it wasn't well written before, but it's not gonna be as time consuming as before, so hopefully I'll get some videos out in time and not take a whole year. So thanks for coming back, and sit back and relax. Our story starts with the southern plains of Vienna, where the people live a nomadic life tending to their cattle. One could say they're kinda like
the Mongols.
A few times throughout the year, due to weather reasons, the tribes would meet in a place called the Land of All Hallows. This place is thought of as a gateway to the spirit world, and thus considered as sacred ground or ancestral lands by everybody. This means no outside conflict is allowed within the area. On the contrary, it would serve as a meeting place for festivities and trade. Amidst the laughter and spilled alcohol, business talks are being conducted. These trades and contracts were then recorded into today's topic, which is the Tro-na, or later known as the ceramic drums. A Tro-na is pretty simple. To make one, a craftsman would take a chunk out of a ocean burnt oak and peel off the bark to leave a clean surface. They would then cut out a cylinder with a thickness of about the distance from the bottom of the palm to where the digits meet, and with a diameter of about 2 hands from the middle digit to the base of the wrist. After which, 10 flat sides are trimmed out for writing. A hole is also cut out in the middle for a post for handling or display. The Tro-na also comes with a set of keys which the scribe uses for writing. Usually made of iron, they're basically a set of carving tools with pre-made tips for common strokes. Don't forget the mallet. A key would have 2 to 4 different tips, and you would rotate it to change the templates quickly, allowing for faster writing speed. So, speaking of the strokes, the language on what would become known as the ceramic script, the reason why they're called ceramic drums, is mostly a mixture of pictographs and simple characters. This was actually partly inspired by Tom Scott's video on the cuneiform and watching Dr. Irving teach the boys how to write in cuneiform. I thought it was really interesting, and I think I was attracted to the simplicity of it. When you hear ancient scripts, you tend to picture something with a bit more of a flair and complexity, like traditional Chinese scripts or hieroglyphic. Anyway, I am no linguist, so I won't be able to give you an alphabet of sorts, but I can give some examples. Firstly, let's go back to the fact that these ceramic drums were used for trade. Hence, the writing on these drums would focus on the products and goods being traded, as well as the quantity. While the ceramic script is known for its simpler characters, the pictographs are used to depict some common concepts, for example, the products and goods being traded, as well as more abstract ideas like the idea of life and death, the soul, peace, harmony, the sun, and the cosmos. The idea is harnessing those what in my mind can be considered big concepts and something that can't be easily defined by words, and nouns that you see every day, like trees, mountains, rivers, and stuff. While the simpler characters denote the more factual aspect of life, like numbers, the quantity of something, directions up and down, left and right, orientation, the actions, eating, walking, breathing, etc., etc. So a face on a Tro-na would start with a pictograph or a set of for the subject of the trade, followed by the details. But a contract also needs some way of being enforced. There needs to be some repercussions for violating a contract, otherwise what's the point of making one? The last portion covers the punishment of breaking the contract. This can range from material compensation to military actions taken and a life for a life. So back to the camp. The festivities and talks will go on for 9 days. On the 10th day, the deals are finalized. To finalize the deal, each party would personally brand their seal onto the Tro-na, and the drums are coated and left to dry. In the meantime, preparations are made for honoring the ancestors and the dead on the 11th day. As nomads, carrying back the dead to this spot is unrealistic. So a memento or a part of the dead is brought back to the grove so they can join the ancestors at last. The bigger clans have their own little tombs in the caverns around the area. Otherwise, a drum with the name of the dead is left in the middle of the grove. Prayers are said, some offerings are made. The rest of the day is observed in silence. Then on the 12th day, the people quietly begin to pack up to head back out. The practice of using the Tro-na would become widespread, and over time, other trading posts would be established outside the grove. The next evolution of the Tro-na would come as some of these trading posts reached the foothills of the Yalvas Mountains. The Yalvasi, a bat-like race, would leave their caves in the Yalvas Mountains and begin to engage in trade relations with the Yenans and bring their own twist. Living in caves, the Yalvasi are quite adept with stoneworking, and the wooden Tro-nas would also not do too well in the damp environment of the Yalvas caverns. So the Yalvasi introduced Tro-nas made of stone. Starting out with limestone, the Yalvasi would start utilizing materials of higher value. This would begin this concept of Tro-nas having an intrinsic value in trade. By that I mean the value of the Tro-na itself adds to the value of the trade being offered. One of the things I had to consider was why a culture would develop a drum like this as a writing medium instead of something less bulky and maybe a bit more portable. And again, we would have to go back to its real purpose. The Tro-na is more than just a record, it's like a receipt, a proof of
contract.
If a dispute comes up, both parties would have a copy of the contract as proof. The contract remains valid until all conditions are met or both parties agree to annul, after which both copies would have to be destroyed simultaneously.
So you are saying you want to break the contract?
Something to also consider is how it will be enforced. The tribes don't have some sort of central government or courts to mediate these issues. So how would offenders be punished? Well, firstly, the disputing party would gain justification for seeking retribution, as agreed on the Tro-na, no more no less. But as a whole, the tribes engage in collective shunning. The offenders will start to be treated differently, the value of their trade decreases, there is less people willing to trade with them, and so on and so on. Their word literally loses value, and word of mouth gets around in scattering, so you can't escape that. Serial offenders would eventually be permanently shunned from the rest of the tribes, and that punishment can be a matter of life or death. Your access to trading with the rest of the tribes can determine whether your tribe can survive the harsh weathers of Vienna. Remember, these contracts are more than just an exchange of goods and products. Some of them involve matters of peace, war, a clan marriage, and so on. The consequences can be severe, and on top of that, these contracts are made in the presence of their ancestors. You are staking your whole clan's reputation when engaging in these deals. Everyone takes it very seriously. And for this reason, this peculiar way of writing would become a symbol of authority in
Contract.
throughout the continent as the Alva Sea trade network expands, which brings us to this. My favorite part of this whole exercise is actually coming up with ideas on how a concept or technology or whatever evolves over time. So what's next for our Tro-nas in Ramic script? Here are some things that I think would happen. I would like to think that a language born from trade would lend itself to having idioms and phrases based around the economic and financial concepts, like how we say something is worth its weight in gold to speak of its trustworthiness. Another thing would be the influence of the writing medium itself on the language. A drum with limited writing space would encourage short-form literature, like short poems and stories that invoke a profound picture. It can even be a challenge where a form of poetry would come from the use of one character for each phase, so you would have a 10-character poetry, or the creative use of blank faces. And when the language matures out of its pragmatic use in trade, reading Tro-nas in the comfort of your study would necessitate some form of any furniture or some sort of fixture for convenient writing and reading, just like paper are binded in books. I'm picturing some sort of bench or desktop fixture with a spoke in the middle where the Tro-na can be inserted. It would have some form of a lever or a ratchet mechanism that locks the drum in place at the reader's eyesight level. You can pull on the lever or manually spin the Tro-na to the next phase, then take out the drum and put in another one. For bodies of work that require multiple Tro-nas, a page or a volume indicator would be carved along the edge. Hello, this is Future Waffles here. I just want to say I am probably going to do a follow-up video on Tro-nas because it has been 2 months since I started this video, and I do just want to make sure it gets actually published instead of being on permanent delay. But I am glad it got delayed somewhat because I started learning CAD, and so I designed a scaled down model of a Tro-na. It is to scale if I did the math right. So this the scale of this width here is the ratio of that. I mean is scaled down to match the width of the diameter of the whole Tro-na, but it is made of PLA, so can't carve into that. I did also 3D print. I made a CAD and 3D printed a model, a scaled down key also, and I might show a little bit of the CAD itself, but yeah, it's pretty small, and there are some things that I have some thoughts after actually making an actual Tro-na. So I want to spend the whole video on that, and instead of delaying my current video, I will dedicate a new one for that. So I hope you like the rest of the video, and yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good night.